He ran from Egypt a fugitive, haunted by blood, buried in the sands of guilt. For 40 years, Moses thought God was done with him. But on an ordinary day, the mountains caught fire and his life changed forever. Moses, once a prince, now a shepherd. He had murdered a man in Egypt and fled. But he couldn't flee the weight in his chest. 40 years of silence, 40 years of waiting. But heaven had not forgotten him, even when he tried to forget himself. Golden sunlight spilled across the rugged terrain as Moses guided his flock along the rocky slopes of Horeb, the mountain later called the Mountain of God. The sheep bleated softly, their hooves crunching over gravel. It was an ordinary day, until it wasn't. Moses paused. A strange glow caught his eye, flickering, alive. He turned, and there, among the dry shrubs and stone, it appeared, a bush engulfed in flames, yet untouched by the fire. His breath caught. The flames danced wildly, but the branches remained green, unburnt. He took a slow, cautious step forward. His staff slipped from his grasp and clattered to the ground. His heart pounded in his chest. His hand trembled as he reached out instinctively. Then, like thunder cracking the sky, a voice roared from the heart of the flame. "Moses! Moses!" He stumbled backward, eyes wide with fear and awe. His voice trembled as he answered into the flame. Here I am," the voice returned, firm and commanding, yet full of holy authority. "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the ground you're standing on is holy." Without hesitation, Moses fell to his knees. His trembling hands reached down to unfasten his sandals. Dust clung to his skin as he pulled them off. Then, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment, he covered his face with his cloak, shielding his eyes from the divine flame. The voice spoke again, this time slower, deeper. "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob." Moses' breath caught in his throat. These were not just names from his past, they were pillars of a promise. He had grown up hearing tales of this God, the one who called, who delivered, who remembered his people. But now, the stories were alive. The fire was real, and the voice was eternal. God was not distant. God was here, and Moses was standing on holy ground. The voice from the flame softened, not in power, but in tenderness. Yet it still burned with holy intensity. "I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries. I know their suffering." As those words echoed through the mountain, a vivid vision unfolded in Moses' mind. Men groaning beneath the whip, children wailing in hunger and fear, mothers bowed low under the weight of cruel labor, a people crushed by chains, but not forgotten. Then the voice rose again, fierce and full of divine emotion. "I have come down to rescue them and to bring them to a land flowing with milk and honey." This was no distant deity. This was a God whose heart beat with justice. The cries of slaves had pierced the heavens, and the heavens had answered. God was not just aware. He was moved. He was angry. And he was ready to act, but he would not send an army. He would send a man. A man who once ran from justice, a man marked by failure, a man standing barefoot before fire. "So now go," the voice thundered. "I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt." The silence that followed was not empty, it was weighty. Moses' destiny had just ignited in flame. Moses staggered backward, heart pounding in his chest. The divine commission had struck like lightning, and he felt exposed, small, unworthy. His voice cracked with fear and doubt. Who am I? Why me? I can't go back there. I'm a nobody. The silence held for a breath. Then the voice responded, not with rebuke, but with unwavering reassurance. I will be with you. It was a promise, not a suggestion, the kind that steadies trembling hands and silences storms. But the questions still swirled in Moses' mind. What if they ask me, what's his name? What do I say? The fire flared, the mountain rumbled, and from the heart of the flame came a name that shattered all limitations. I am who I am. Thunder cracked across the sky. The bush blazed brighter. This was no ordinary mission, and this was no ordinary God. Tell them, I am has sent me to you. Tell the elders, the God of your fathers has seen your suffering. Tell Pharaoh. A pause, then the command, sharp and sovereign. Let my people go. It wasn't just a message, it was a warning, and it was the beginning of a revolution. This wasn't just a mission, it was a war against an empire drunk on power, a war against the chains that bound generations, a war against fear, against the lies Moses believed about himself. And now, Moses stood at the front line, the first soldier in a divine rebellion. The fire roared once more, and the voice of God sealed the moment with a final, thunderous decree. I know Pharaoh will resist, but I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with wonders, and then they will know who I am. The mountain fell silent. The flames still burned, and somewhere deep in the heart of Egypt, the ground trembled, though no one yet knew why. A storm was coming, and its name was deliverance. Moses had no title, no army, no weapons, but he had a call. And when God calls, you cannot unhear him. The flame that burned that day would never stop burning inside him. He stood barefoot before fire and still said no. The God of heaven called him by name, but Moses couldn't see past his own fear. And what followed? A showdown between doubt and destiny. Moses said softly, "But what if they don't believe me? What if they say, the Lord didn't appear to you?" Fear, deep, paralyzing, the kind that wraps around your ribs and makes you forget who you are, even when God stands before you. God, commanding calm, "What is that in your hand?" Moses responded, "A staff." God said to him, "Throw it down." Moses throws the staff. It hits the ground and instantly transforms into a living serpent. It slithers with supernatural energy. Moses leaps back in fear. God said to Moses, "Reach out your hand. Take it by the tail." Moses, shaking, replied, "By the tail." He swallows hard, stretches out his hand, and grabs the tail. Poof! It becomes a staff again. God wasn't just showing power, he was confronting fear, teaching obedience before deliverance. God said, "Now put your hand into your cloak." Moses obeys, pulls it out. His hand is white as snow, diseased with leprosy. His eyes widen in horror. God said again, "Put it back." He does. Pulls it out again, restored, whole, unblemished. God said to him, "If they do not believe the first sign, they may believe the second." God, voice growing stronger, "And if they still don't believe, take water from the Nile, pour it on the ground. It will turn to blood." 3 signs, 3 warnings, 3 proofs that heaven had stepped into the affairs of men. But Moses wasn't done running. Moses, desperate, breaking, said, "Pardon your servant, Lord, but I've never been eloquent. I am slow of speech and tongue." God, firm, rising in power, responded, "Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and teach you what to say." But Moses still hesitated, still begged for a way out. His fear had a death grip on his destiny. Moses pleaded, "Please, Lord, send someone else." God's anger burned, but his mercy held fast. God asked Moses, "What about your brother, Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you. He will be your mouth, but I will be with both of you." God didn't withdraw the call. He reinforced it with help. That's grace. That's leadership. That's love. God didn't withdraw the call. He reinforced it with help. That's grace. That's leadership. That's love. Moses said to Jethro, "Let me return to Egypt. I need to see if my people are still alive." Jethro nods. God had lit the fire. Now the road to Pharaoh was set ablaze. Moses was marked for leadership, but unfulfilled obedience is still disobedience. His son had not been circumcised as commanded by God in the covenant of Abraham. Zipporah, fierce, decisive, she takes a flint knife, circumcises their son, and throws the foreskin at Moses' feet. Zipporah, bitter, said, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." In one bloody moment, the wrath passed, the mission survived, and Moses learned obedience is not optional when you walk with fire. 2 brothers, one called to speak, one called to lead, reunited for a mission bigger than either could handle alone. They embrace. Then together they travel to Egypt, ready to confront the most powerful man on earth. They walked into a palace with nothing but a staff and a word from God. But in the eyes of Pharaoh, they were just old men from the desert. What happened next would unleash a chain of oppression and an uprising that would shake an empire. Aaron, speaking with fire. "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go so they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh scoffs, laughs coldly. "Who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." And there it was, the first collision between human pride and divine justice. One man stood on the throne of power, the other held the word of the Almighty. Moses and Aaron said boldly, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices, or he may strike us with plague or sword." Pharaoh, furious. "Why are you taking the people from their labor? Get back to work." Pharaoh wasn't just rejecting their request, he was mocking their God. What followed was pure cruelty. Pharaoh summons his overseers and slave drivers with one command. Pharaoh commanded, "Do not supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them gather their own straw, but require the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They're lazy, that's why they cry, 'Let us go and sacrifice.' So now make the work harder." Pharaoh answered God's command with oppression. He didn't just say no. He punished the people for believing they could ever be free. Overseer shouted, "Faster! You will not reduce your tally." The message was clear. Hope comes with a cost, and those who dare to dream would bleed for it. Foreman said angrily, "May the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials and have put a sword in their hand to kill us." Moses had obeyed God. He had spoken boldly, and yet things got worse, much worse, and now his own people were turning against him. Moses cried to God broken, "Why, Lord? Why have you brought trouble on this people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh, he's brought nothing but pain, and you have not rescued your people at all." This was not defiance, it was desperation. Moses had risked everything, and when the storm hit, heaven felt silent. "I am the Lord, the God who keeps his promises," based on Exodus chapter 6. When God spoke again, louder than the pain, he doubted. They despaired. Pharaoh mocked. And still, God spoke again, louder, clearer, with fire in his voice, because the plan of heaven does not bow to the fear of men. God said, with deep authority, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand, he will let them go. He will drive them out himself." The God of justice had not forgotten. The clock of deliverance had not stopped ticking, and heaven was not late. It was loading. God continued, "I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty, but by my name the Lord, I did not make myself fully known to them." God said, "I have heard the groaning of my people. I have remembered my covenant." This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was a covenant coming alive, a divine vow awakened by the cries of slaves. God declares sevenfold promise. 1. I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. 2. I will free you from being slaves to them. 3. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and mighty acts of judgment. 4. I will take you as my own people. 5. I will be your God. 6. You will know that I am the Lord your God. 7. I will bring you to the land I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. 7 promises. 1 God. A future sealed by divine oath. Not even Pharaoh's armies could stop this now. Moses delivers the message. The people look at him, empty, hopeless. But sometimes pain screams louder than promises. The people couldn't even listen, not because they didn't believe, but because their suffering had stolen their strength to hope. Moses said, "If the Israelites won't listen to me, how will Pharaoh? I speak with faltering lips." Moses was still chained by self-doubt, by fear, by the failures of yesterday. But God wasn't done speaking life into a trembling man. God said, "Go, tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the Israelites go. No change in plan, no adjustment to the mission." Because God's promises don't flex with our fears. They stand firm, even when our knees don't. God roots Moses' story in history. His call didn't come from nowhere. It was built on the foundation of a covenant generations deep. They weren't ready, but they were chosen. And sometimes that's all heaven needs to split the sea and shake an empire. And so it began, not with swords or armies, but with 2 weary men and the unstoppable Word of God. As Moses and Aaron stepped toward Pharaoh's palace, They carried more than a message. They carried the weight of generations and the fire of deliverance. But Egypt would not yield easily. Ahead lay resistance, miracles, and the shaking of a kingdom that dared to defy the living God. This is just the beginning. Thank you for watching this episode of Bible Story Cinema. We're honored to bring these powerful, timeless stories to life in a way that speaks to hearts of all ages. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Bible Story Cinema so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, Part 3 is coming soon, where Pharaoh's pride meets the first strike of heaven's justice. Subscribe now and stay tuned for more cinematic Bible stories that bring the Word to life like never before.